My name is Lumiel, and welcome back to my Bloodborne Lorethrough, where we play through the entirety of Bloodborne and take a look at the lore presented chronologically through the game and attempt to piece it together and make deductions and fill in the gaps. Essentially, just traveling through the history as discovered in the game. So in the last video, we created our character, watched and talked about the opening videos, and then explored Yosefka's clinic and died to the werewolf, waiting down in the sick room. So down in the sick room is where we will return, and we will pick up and explore Yharnam. So let's go. All right, this is mostly a discussion of lore, so I don't want to dwell too much on everything, but you have a roll capability. We have buttons that will allow us to use our blood vials to convert blood vials into, or bullets into blood vials. We have a gun in our left hand, which allows us to fire bullets, which will be used to stun enemies. We have a light attack with our weapon, a heavy attack. We also can transform the weapon and have a light and heavy in its extended form. But we also have the ability to extend it while attacking, which has a transformation attack, which we see here. That's a very powerful attack. But I'm going to put it back down, and we're going to now approach the werewolf out in the sick room, the horrid, destroyed sick room. His eyes are now glowing because he has the blood echoes that were dropped from me. So he devoured my blood echoes, and in order to get them back, we need to defeat him. So I'm going to approach, get his attention. And try not to die. So we saw just a little bit there, me using what's called a regain ability, which after you lose life, if you attack suddenly, you regain back some of your life. That is meant to encourage aggressive gameplay, which you saw there, which rather than backing off and trying to shoot him with my gun, it made me rush in and start hitting him a lot so that I didn't die. So now we see the werewolf. Look at those claws. So I say werewolf, it's a wolf, it's a werewolf, it's a beast. That's all we know for sure. And I'm going to search the corpse. And I got 3 blood vials, which are used to heal me. So before we proceed on, I want to take a look, and while we're in the sick room, before we go out into Yharnam, I want to look at the items in our inventory and discuss what it says about them. So the first thing we have is the hunter's mark, which we know we're a hunter. We know we are attempting to escape the hunt. We're seeking paleblood. So we have the hunter's mark, which allows us to sacrifice all blood echoes and awaken anew. So dangling upside down rune etched in one's mind. A rune etched in our mind. We see this hunter's mark, and it's the symbol of the hunter. We can focus our thoughts on this rune, and we will lose all of our blood echoes, but we will awaken fresh, as if it were just a bad dream. We also have a notebook given to us by the messengers in the hunter's dream, and it says, "Messengers are inhabitants of the dream, who revere the brave hunters. Use them to send messages to other worlds." So the creatures that in our opening vision we saw burn away the beast while we were getting our blood transfusion These are called messengers, and they sit in the baths, and they hold up the notes, and they sit at the lamps and at the tombstones. And these messengers, we now know, are inhabitants of the dream. And they revere hunters. We have the saw cleaver, which it's a trick weapon of the workshop. It's commonly used in the hunting business. The saw, effective at drawing the blood of beasts, transforms into a long cleaver that makes use of centrifugal force. The saw, with its set of bloodletting teeth, the serrated edges, has become a symbol of the hunt and only grows in effectiveness the more grotesquely transformed the beast. So what this tells us is that the serrated edge of this particular weapon is especially effective against beasts, and the more beastly, the more effective. Hunter's pistol. The pistol is made at the workshop for hunters stalking beasts. Hunter firearms are specially crafted to employ quicksilver bullets fused with the wielder's own blood, boosting damage against beasts. So, I did earlier say it allowed us to, that we have a button that allows us to convert blood into silver bullets. So essentially what that means is you can sacrifice a chunk of your health bar in order to gain more bullets, and then you can replace that health bar by healing. The pistol is a quicker draw than the blunderbuss, allowing for speedier responses. So it has a quicker response, and honestly, it's more effective when trying to stun. Black Hood. Hood worn upon waking in the nightmare of blood and beasts. So we've heard about the hunter's dream. We saw that some of the items in the dream, the pools or the baths, I mean, are tied to the nightmare. So this is a hood worn upon awakening in the nightmare of blood and beasts. Perhaps its wearer had to stay out of sight and travel by cover of darkness. Without memory, who will ever know? This will be very similar, starting with, but it says not typical clothing of Yharnam. Perhaps it is of foreign origin. It is said, after all, the traveler came to Yharnam from afar. And if we remember the man in the wheelchair who performed the transfusion, he called us an outsider. On our hands, we wear sullied bandages. A faint memory recalls blood ministration involving the transfusion of unknown blood. Not long after, the nightmare began. Does that mean that these were there before we started and that we had already entered into the nightmare and we were seeking pale blood to escape that nightmare, the hunt? Or does it mean we were seeking pale blood, and in order to confront it, we allowed this transfusion, which entered us into this nightmare? And I believe that's the case. We were seeking out pale blood, and we allowed ourselves to be transfused with blood, which will have some effect on us, and we'll find out more as we play. And then this one, just like the coat and jacket, it is telling us that we came from afar. That's all we have so far. All right, let's head to Yharnam. I just wanted to stop and look at this grotesque. It's just a beastly man, like we saw in the opening video, one of those Yharnam folk that had torches and weapons. All right, over here we have another note from the messengers, and we have a body with an item on it. That's what the glow is, and it will be more blood vials, I believe. Yes. I could use those blood vials to heal me. I'll go ahead and do it. It's you press square, R, No. West. Triangle. Sorry, you'll have to forgive me. I've played so many other FromSoft games, and it's been such a long time since I played this. I will get buttons wrong, but we'll get more used to it. So I've got a gate back here. Kind of, there is where we came out of Yosefka's clinic, and this gate would lead towards the back of it, but it's closed by a device. We can also hear loud breathing and movement over this way. Along this wall. Another item here. This is 10 Quicksilver bullets. And then here's a gate that leads into Yharnam, Central Yharnam. Central Yharnam, as I said. So, just keeping our bearings, we're surrounded by a massive city on all fronts with a large bridge leading back this way. We hear a church bell ringing. Let's continue down here. We'll search this body. More blood vials. We can hear metal being dragged up there, and we can see a person with a torch patrolling. To our right, we have a gate. I'll keep my back to that and approach the patrolling guy. He got a little early with that, I would say. I have trouble timing the counterattack when they use the torch. I mean, everyone has a little trouble at any time, but specifically with the torch, I struggle a little bit. Now this gate, we heard a large, heavy breathing, heavy movement sound, and we can see back there something moving as well. Off to the left here, we see a group of Yharnamites, and we are unable to open the gate. It's closed by a device. That device. And we see lots of heavily Gothic architecture. And the city cast in sunset. Another beastly townsfolk. You can see the extended arms, which it's a little difficult to see, which are hairy, very hairy face. And lots of chained up caskets. And more vials of blood. Here's a device like that which would open the gate. And another body with an item. I said device like that would open that gate. I should have said this device lowers a ladder. And more blood vials. Alright, so I can see two guys could appear dead, but I think if we look close, his head moves. And he appears to be sleeping, so I'll approach slowly one by one.
Cursed beast!
And he calls me a cursed beast. He yells cursed beast at me and attacks. Do I appear beastly somehow? Is his mind gone and he sees beasts everywhere? Is there some reason he sees me as an attacker or an intruder?
Please!
So that counterattack is called a visceral attack. I use up a quicksilver bullet each time, but it allows for a very heavy attack. I could also just come in swinging. These guys are really easy to defeat, but I like to practice, especially when I'm a bit rusty like I am now. Another body. This time I have Molotov cocktails. There's a little single-person carriage, maybe a two-person carriage. Alright, so our only route is up this ladder. But first, let's see what the game says about the Molotov cocktail. As we know, it explodes in raging flames when thrown against an object. It's one of the oldest hunter tools available in the workshop. So, first, there are tools that hunters use, obviously, and this is one of the oldest. That makes sense. Since the tragedy that struck Old Yharnam, fire has become a staple in the beast hunts, and is thought to cleanse impurity. Certain types of beasts have an abnormal fear to flame. So, like the serrated edge of our blade, it appears fire is effective against beasts, and though it doesn't say, I would also suspect that, like the serrated blade, it is more effective against those that are more beastly. Now, let's climb. You heard that, right? It would be a little hard not to hear. It was a tortured howl, a screech almost, from somewhere. Now we can hear coughing. Light the lamp. So this lamp will transport us back to the hunter's dream. If we die, we will wake up at the lamp that we most recently have visited or lit. And like I mentioned before, the messengers inhabit, empower, they appear to be praying to the lamp and perhaps chanting something. These inhabitants of the hunter's dreams that revere the hunters. And man, this coughing. There's a door here and a window with a light outside. And this is where the coughing's coming from, so let's talk.
Oh, you must be a hunter. And not one from around here either. I'm Gilbert, a fellow outsider. You must have had a fine time of it. Yharnam has a special way of treating guests. Well, I don't think I could stand if I wanted to, but I'm willing to help if there's anything that can be done. This town is cursed. Whatever your reasons might be, you should plan a swift exit. Whatever can be gained from this place, it will do more harm than good.
Gilbert, he doesn't sound like he's doing well, but he says, first of all, he notices that we're a hunter, can tell that we're not from Yharnam. He can't stand anymore, though he is willing to help. According to him, Yharnam is cursed, and that it is imperative for us to leave. Let's find out if he has anything more to say. I just want to call attention to, not only is this lamp lit, it's giving off a smoke or a fume.
Paleblood, you say? Never heard of it. But if it's blood you're interested in, you should try the Healing Church. The church controls all knowledge on blood ministration and all varieties of blood. Across the valley to the east of Yharnam lies the town of the Healing Church, known as the Cathedral Ward. And deep within Cathedral Ward is the old Grand Cathedral, the birthplace of the Healing Church's special blood. Or so they say. Yharnamites don't share much with outsiders. Normally they wouldn't let you near the place, but the hunt is on tonight. This might be your chance.
So, we ask him about pale blood, and he mentions that he's never heard it. So we are still seeking it and asking those we approach. He mentions if you're interested in blood, you might want to seek out the Healing Church, which is the home of blood ministration. To the east, there is a cathedral ward, and in the cathedral ward, there's a place called the Grand Cathedral, which he says is the birthplace of the healing blood, I believe he said, or blood. So we want to seek out this Grand Cathedral because it is the birthplace of this blood ministration and the healing that, or the effects that we have seen come about due to the blood. So that is where we will be heading, but let's find out what else he has to say.
Across the valley to the east of Yharnam, you'll find the Cathedral Ward.
Yep.
Deep within lies the old main cathedral, said to be the source of blood.
Source of blood, and church chime on cue.
Blood, but that's your best bet if it's anything to do with unique types of blood.
So this Grand Cathedral deals with unique types of blood, and though he hasn't heard of pale blood, he again tells us we should head there.
Across the valley to the east, deep within, like I haven't heard of, that's your best bet if it's...
Thanks, Gilbert. A gate next to him doesn't open from this side. Just looking at some of the statues and architecture. Here we see the messengers in their statuary, and above Gilbert's place, an interesting carving. All right, the only path we have leads this way. Now we have a pebble. It's probably not worth it, but let's check out the description. Small pebbles found throughout Yharnam can be thrown at foes. It is quite thrilling. Though there's not much lore-wise interesting, it is a useful item for getting attention of single enemies when they're traveling in a group. And just keep swinging when you defeat an enemy, because you can gain back life even after they have died. I didn't get back all of my life, but I got back most of it. More chain coffins. More houses. There's a path down this way with a guy there with a burning crucified beast. There are at least two guys there with another burning crucified beast. I see an item there and another lit lamp by a door. And if you listen closely, you can hear wind and wailing. Distant thunder. Alright, I have his attention. I'll back off. I'm bad at that. Alright. This would be a good example of when you would want to throw a stone. Instead, I'll get some of their attention. Ah, screw it. Alright, that got rid of a couple more of them. I keep hitting triangle to try to transform my weapon. I am wasting blood vials. Alright, so the crowd headed that way. Let's head this way. There's the gate that was locked. Here is one of the burning beasts that have been crucified. Bandaged and burning. Alright. There's Big Boy. Heavy breathing, heavy walking. Let's open this path. So what this is teaching us is that the levels have shortcuts. This one is not very useful because the lamp, which I lit, is up there. So the path is quicker just to come down here this normal way, but we will find shortcuts that are more useful. Alright. Let me try fighting this guy, though I will probably die, which is alright. It's in the lore for us to die. So I hit him, but he hit me first. There. Obviously, I was panicky. Alright. So, he is a huge enemy who wears a hood like us, or like an executioner, and carries a massive axe. There's not a lot we can learn, except that there are some enemies that we will have more trouble with. We'll have to get creative with how we fight them. Alright, so let's continue up the path. These are the steps I came down. Here's another set of steps that lead to that drop that I saw earlier. And there was a guy standing here admiring his work. And here's the wailing. Another lit lamp, another door.
Are you that outsider? Well, sorry, but I don't want anything to do with you. Trot along, will ya?
So, he's heard of me already, but wants nothing to do with me. Presumably because I'm an outsider. Unlike those that are attacking me, he seems to have his wits to some extent.
Are you that outsider? Well, so trot along, will.
And there go the crowd again. There goes. Alright. Let's draw the attention of one by one if we can. This is where I should have the pebble handy. But this works too. Alright. I'll try to remember to do that when I miss my opening shot, which is rather than backing off and taking more shots, just rush in and do my attack. Alright, let's continue forward. Again, the path I came down. The second set of stairs. Another door with another light. More crying.
Lads, you've come on. You'd open the door on a night of the hunt. Away with you. Now.
This is lousy offcomer who would open a door on the night of the hunt. So he knows better than to open his doors.
Lads, you've come on. You'd open the door on a night of the hunt. Away with you. Now.
So those with wits about them seem to lock themselves inside on nights like this. There's a guy asleep with a path heading up and one heading forward. We look, there's a huge party. But I don't want to turn my back on him for long. Up ahead, a huge bonfire burning a huge beast. And about a dozen people standing around it, just visible so far. So let's go this way. More stairs and an item, which is a trap. A new item, a bloodstone shard. There it is. Embed in weapon to fortify. A solid shard that forms in cold blood. So another form of blood that we've heard about. After death, a substance in the blood hardens, and that which does not crystallize is called a bloodstone. At the workshop, these bloodstones are embedded in weapons to fortify them. So, is blood... Sorry, I just want to look at it again. It's hardened blood that formed in someone after death. Although it says that which does not crystallize is called a bloodstone. But this is a shard of it, and it can be used in our weapons to make them stronger. Alright, onward. We see the bonfire. We see the crowd. And I see the ambush. A well, or a well pump. That guy turned away, but these turned towards me. 3 more moved that way. The one up ahead moved further away, so let's deal with these guys. We'll try to draw their attention up these stairs. Which was easier than I thought it might be. I'm out of bullets. Alright. So, no more shooting. So that number is greatly reduced now. So I see 3 down there. A few more walking up there. An item here on a corpse. Good, I needed bullets. One, 2, 3, 4, 5 up there. 1 here, so let's deal with him. I'm sneaking up on him, so I use the stronger form of my weapon, and I'm going to do a strong attack as well. As you can tell, it's slower, and there's an item I can't get to. I could drop down here, but it's still a large crowd. See if we can draw Annie's attention without drawing all attention. Alright, so we have the gunman's attention. Let's just start rushing. And let's get out of here. Alright, now he's about to kill me, so heal. Alright, you don't want to do that, that's dumb. I could have died. This is where I need the pebble. Just keep a barrier between you and the people firing bullets and you'll be fine. And we can hear dogs too. There's the dog. You'll also be fine if you just keep moving with the gunman, I mean. Let's deal with him. Alright. There's an item. And there's the pounding on the door. Huge doors. So anything pounding on them, moving them like that must be huge as well. Seems larger than the one we've fought. Truly massive. Alright. Cold blood dew. Alright, so droplet of cold blood containing blood echoes. Used to gain blood echoes. So you can use them and essentially you'll get extra experience points extra, as they're called in this, blood echoes. Hunters sustained by the dream gain strength from blood echoes. They imbibe the blood with thoughts of reverence, indeed gratitude for their victims. So they show reverence and gratitude for their victims, and then can use these to gain strength. In other words, trading XP for increasing stats. There's the other side of the door. We can't yet see where the noise is coming from. And now we can. As I said, huge. An item. Another bloodstone shard. Hardened blood from a corpse. Blood vials, always good. Lots of caskets. And laughing.
I don't reckon you're from round here. Well, stuck outside on a night of the hunt. Oh, you poor, poor thing.
That sounded insincere to me. Alright. Looky here. A shortcut to another path. But let's stick to the main path for now. And let's deal with the big guy so that he doesn't deal with us. Here's a well. A fountain, I mean. In Central Yharnam. Seems like a key feature. I'm going to go ahead and heal. Now I'm just gonna whack him. So, he is a huge brute. Seems to have suddenly grown, bursting out of his shoe, for example. Like the clothes were made for a smaller form, and then he has grown. Here's a body. It's got another Molotov cocktail, which will be good against things that are beastly, and a torch. Let's see what it tells us about the torch. It's a left-hand weapon, so replacing the pistol. A common torch formed by wrapping a pine resin-drenched cloth around the end of a long stick. Hunters choose torches not only because the hunt leads them to the darkest nooks, but also because certain creatures they encounter are possessed of a deathly fear of flame. So like the Molotov cocktail told us, certain things are afraid of the flame and can be more easily damaged by the flame. Back to the fountain and exploring the edge of this main courtyard with the laughing party and the shortcut to the left. An item, which always look carefully when something draws your attention. Because these crows can really mess you up if you let them. Oil urn. Alright. So the oil urn that covers target in oil when thrown. Listen to the music box sound in the background. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Note that music. Where's that coming from? So when this urn hits its mark, the target is drenched in oil and made extremely flammable. Fire is commonplace on the hunt, and oil urns accentuates its effects. Sometimes when hunters burn beasts, they appear intoxicated by the euphoria of purification. So some hunters really get off on burning beasts, but this accentuates the strength of the flame. Where's that music coming from? It's getting weaker, so appears to come from that direction. Hear the footsteps. And here's the other side of the gate with the item we couldn't get to. Cold Blood Dew. Level 1 is what that 1 in parentheses means. So we now have 2 of those. We can exchange them for blood echoes. In this playthrough, I will level up and perform non-lore centered tasks, grinding for levels, stuff like that. Between playthroughs, this isn't a skill playthrough of like, look how amazing I am, because I'm not. So I will do that between runs, and we will just talk about lore and environment and characters, between playthroughs, so that we don't have to worry about that in playthroughs. There, he saw me. Just keep moving when somebody's firing at you. Perpendicular to where they're firing. Obviously not parallel. And because they're easy to deal with, I'll actually deal with the dog first. Alright. Alright, he's dealt with, they're all dealt with, and here's a well. Doesn't really matter, I just like to call out landmarks. I don't think there's anything lore significant with that. Blood vials, the beastly dogs, quicksilver bullets dropped by the gunman. And here's where we came from with the fountain. That's why I call out landmarks, so that we can keep our bearings. And here's a gate, and we hear the music again. The gate is closed by a device, seen there on the other side. Which takes us up this path. Alright. I love these statues. Faithless people or covered faces, reaching up to something, always reaching up. I guess not always, sometimes hunched over crying. Huge ornate carriage, more coffins, more luggage strewn about, and an item. Bloodstone shard for fortifying our weapons. Alright, remember these guys? Now remember the pebbles. Can be thrown at targets. It will be difficult, if not impossible, to get the attention of just one. I probably don't even need to use a pebble. But you throw them by pressing square. They hunch back, they howl, they'll approach. They are difficult to predict how they'll move. They have a lot of health. So, alright, what I did was just equipped the Molotov cocktail, and you'll see why. Beastly items burn, and hunters get off on it. What you don't want to do is throw a pebble when you mean to throw a Molotov cocktail, though. Or miss. Alright. That's one way to deal with werewolves. Alright. I hate wasting items, but they would take forever. So, we came up this path, we explored back there, and there were 2 wolves blocking our path. So, down here, we'll find out what it holds for us. An item back there, an item over here, and it's overlooking the bonfire that we saw with the large crowd before. Bloodstone shard, but we've learned we can break through things. Let's find out how much we can break through. So, here is another path. I like to stick to the main path when first talking about an area, but see that? We can descend a ladder, which will take us down into some depths. But let's stick to the main path, and we'll remember these nooks and crannies that we've uncovered, including the shortcut in the coffins by the laughing group, and then the werewolf shortcut is what I'll refer to that as. Werewolf ladder shortcut, and we'll explore those later. So, let's head back up to the main path. Feels good to get those blood vials. Alright. I see lots of openings, which always makes me paranoid, so let's be slow and look for care. That's why. Okay, off to this side, there's a drop, so I won't go through that because there is no climbing mechanic to get back up in this. So let's call that shortcut 3, and we'll call that the drop across from the steps leading into a house. So that's the drop across from steps shortcut. And then straight ahead, we see enemies. It looks like another large brute, crows, and obviously a main path forward. So let's see where this leads. Dark. Remember what the game taught us about the dark. To use a torch so that you can see people waiting in ambush. There's an item, and there's the person waiting for ambush. That leads back up to the main path, so let's keep exploring down here. I like to take side paths when they can be backtracked. So those shortcuts were all drops are the differences here, so. All right. And we've got a door here, which does not open from this side. And we've got a door here, which does. And off to the side, we see an item, which we should just rush in blindly and grab, right? Or not. He's meant to shoot you in the back while you're grabbing a pungent blood cocktail. So what are these? A pungent blood cocktail is a mature blood cocktail thrown to attract beasts. So pungent blood. The beasts are attracted to blood. It's pungent. It stinks. It releases a pungent odor when thrown that attracts the beasts. A precious tool in sadly short supply. In Yharnam, they produce more blood than alcohol, as the former is more intoxicating. I like this note about Yharnam. It says that in Yharnam, we make more blood than alcohol because they are so driven and obsessed with blood, it's intoxicating to them. Sounds a lot like the beasts they're describing that are attracted to the very thing. So, again, becoming beastly. And then we see something drawing our attention that we can inspect. When the hunt began, the healing church left us, blocking the great bridge to Cathedral Ward, as old Yharnam burned to the ground that moonlit night. So on a moonlit night, when the hunt first began, interestingly, they call it the night of the hunt, but does this night ever end? So when the hunt began, sounds long ago, the healing church, which we're looking for, it's the home of blood ministration. It's where it all started. These, according to Gilbert, it's where interesting types of blood are created and specialized in. The healing church left us and blocked the great bridge leading to the ward that it's in. So the hunt began and the church blocked off the bridge, trapping everybody in Yharnam. As old Yharnam, which we haven't experienced yet, but it's Old Town version of Yharnam, it burnt to the ground on a moonlit night. Interesting.